Hey guys, so I've been working with aggressive dogs for no, you stay out of there. Over 10 years now, and I've come to find working with them using a balanced-based approach is not only far more fun but far more effective. This guy right here, he actually came to me and he was very reactive over his bed. He was resource guarding it. If he was laying in his bed and you walked over to the bed, he would bite your feet. The other dogs in his household, he would attack as well. So what I did is used a balanced approach, starting with, first of all, I bonded with him. As you can tell, he loves me. And I started to teach him marker cues, letting him know that certain behaviors were unwanted, using a marker no. And every time he would do something that wasn't appropriate, I would mark that with my no. And I would follow through to approach him, stand him out. If he was biting me, I'd let him bite it out until he stopped biting. Once he relaxed and he calmed down, I could start to reward him again. And this showed him that that biting wasn't going to stop me and that I wasn't going to hurt him in any way, and he couldn't stop me from doing whatever he thought I was going to do. For instance, this was him seeing that I was going to approach his bed or other dogs. I did start with me first because I wanted him to respond to my markers before I put my little Pomeranians in the line of fire. Because if he didn't respond to my markers, he might attack my Pomeranians and I wouldn't be able to stop him. So once he got to the point where he was responding to my markers, then I started to bring my Pomeranians around and I would actually invite them onto his bed. And when he would go to try to attack them, I would then mark with my no, step towards him, and he already knew that as a marker cue to know that, oh, I can't do that. And he would stop his behavior and then start to look at me like, oh, what did I do wrong? Once he started to give me eye contact and he was relaxed, I would then mark again with my yes, and I would give him a treat, showing him that, hey, if you ignore them and pay attention to me, I'm going to give you something good, and it's going to be some treats. It was actually some fish treats is what I started with. So this was how I went about his training, because I found that you get much more success when you use all four quadrants of opera conditioning. And it wasn't about dominating the dog or anything like that. It was just about effectively communicating with him that those behaviors weren't acceptable and that he's going to have, they call it punishment. They say it's, a positive punishment. I call them positive corrections. So he was going to receive a correction every time he did that behavior. And you can think of positive and negative as adding and subtracting from the equation. So an adding positive correction, I would add with either an e-collar. I did use an e-collar with him with the vibration setting. And I could also use a leash. I chose not to use a leash because he's got he had some issues with his back. We think that his first home maybe hurt him. So his back, they actually thought he had some pain in his back, but I feel like he's much better. I don't think it was pain. I think he was biting because of resource guarding, because I can touch him pretty much anywhere, and he's never bit me for touching him in a space. He has shown that he didn't really like touching his feet at first, and I used the same thing. I marked when he started to, he never actually tried to bite me for his feet, but he did go and tried to show his teeth kind of. And so I would mark with my no, and I only had to do that, I think 3 times, and he stopped completely and then just started looking at me for the treat. Like, okay, well, if you're gonna hand me treats, I'll let you touch my feet, right? So I found that this approach is one of the best when it comes to working with even the most aggressive cases. And I have Bane to account for that. He was a very high protective dog. People would call him aggressive when they met him, but he was really being a resource guarding, and he was being protective because that's his breed. He's literally bred to protect So that's all he was really doing. He wasn't being aggressive in his mind. In his mind, he was protecting his family. And so all I had to do was teach him markers. And then when he showed that reactivity, I would mark that and let him know, you can't do that. If you do that, you're going to receive this. We used a pop on the leash for him. I haven't used an e-collar with him. And that would just tell him that, okay, if I do this behavior, I'm going to receive this unpleasant pop from the leash. And over time, he decided, okay, well, I'm not going to do that. And he would start to just focus on me more. And he is huge. He was a very, very serious case, and it worked like a charm. So it works very, very well. I've had such success with this approach, and I encourage people to look into a balance-based approach when they're going to work with their dogs. And as you can see, it's worked wonders with this guy. He's 11 years old, so he's a senior, and you can see it. He's figured it out. He's understood that I'm communicating to him. Dogs correct each other all the time. And so it's nothing different when I correct him than if I was just another dog correcting him. As long as you do it right, you do it in a neutral tone, you do it in a neutral way. That means your energy is not aggressive or anxious, angry. I'm just neutral. I'm just correcting the dog, and minute the situation's over, it's done. I go about my day. I mean, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to worry about that stuff. I'm not going to try to, I'm not going to stay angry, right? I'm going to try my very best to completely forget about it, in the sense of after it happens, it's done, and I just move on. And I, in my mind, act like it never even happened. Right? Because I don't want him to ever feel like I'm anticipating certain things, and him to feel that energy that I am expecting him to do something. Because when you're fearful of those kind of things, they actually pick up on that fear, and they don't understand why you're afraid, but they can sense that you're fearful, and that can cause them to be reactive as well. So I never want to let the past experience that I've had with another dog, or someone else has had with that dog, affect me when I'm communicating with the dog and working with the dog. So when a situation happens and I have to correct him, after he's calmed down, it's over. I mean, I forget about it, he forgets about it, and as you can tell, he loves me. He does not care that I had to correct him a few times. He knows that I'm not trying to hurt him. So this approach has done absolute wonders. It's by far my favorite, and I hope more people will look into it, especially if you're doing an alpha-based technique. I want to encourage you to look to other ways. There's fantastic ways to work with dogs without dominating the dog. And I have had so much experience with both techniques. I started out as an alpha-based trainer, and I hardly use any of those techniques anymore. I don't see things as dominance all the time. You know, I've educated myself. I've worked with other trainers that use balance-based techniques, and I've found that it has way more credibility in it than I think alpha-based will ever have. So I highly suggest using a balance-based strategy when you're working with an aggressive dog. And that's what I'm going to continue with this guy, and I'll keep you guys updated on his progress. I'm going to actually start working with him right now and do some more exercises with him. So I'll see you guys then.